My name is Caroline and I just turned 20 yesterday. What should have been the biggest celebration of my life turned into one of the most heartbreaking experiences I've ever had. After months of planning my birthday party at a local art gallery, everything was ready to go. That is until my golden sister Amanda decided she needed my mom to go shopping with her. Within hours, my carefully planned celebration was canceled, and I was left wondering why I'm always the second choice in my family. Before I tell you how my sister ruined my birthday, let me know where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt invisible in your own family. Growing up as the second daughter in the Henderson family wasn't easy. From the moment I was born, I lived in the shadow of my older sister Amanda. 4 years my senior, Amanda was everything my parents wanted in a daughter. She was academically gifted, socially adept, and seemed to effortlessly achieve everything she set her mind to. My parents, Diana and Robert Henderson, never tried to hide their favoritism. I can still remember my 8th grade graduation. I had worked incredibly hard that year, bringing my GPA up from a B average to straight A's. When the ceremony ended, I rushed over to my parents' report card in hand, eager to show them what I had accomplished. But they barely glanced at it. Amanda had just been accepted to an honors program at her university, and they were busy taking photos of her holding her acceptance letter. My father absent-mindedly patted my head and said, "That's nice, Caroline," before turning back to Amanda. This pattern repeated throughout my childhood. Christmas dinners, Thanksgiving gatherings, even random Sunday brunches became showcases for Amanda's achievements. "Amanda made the dean's list again," my mother would announce proudly to our relatives. Amanda got an internship at that prestigious marketing firm. Meanwhile, my accomplishments were mentioned as afterthoughts, if at all. It wasn't that I wasn't successful in my own right. I discovered my passion for photography and art when I was 13. By 16, I had won several local competitions and even had a small exhibition at our community center. My art teacher told me I had real talent, but at home, my artistic pursuits were treated as cute hobbies rather than legitimate achievements. "Art is fine for now, Caroline," my mother would say, "but you need to think about a real career eventually like your sister." Amanda was pursuing a business degree following in our father's footsteps. She was practical, goal-oriented, and focused on financial success. I, on the other hand, saw the world through a different lens. I wanted to capture beauty, tell stories through images, and express emotions that couldn't be put into words. But in the Henderson household, these dreams weren't valued. My birthdays were no exception to the pattern of being overshadowed. When I turned 16, my parents had promised a sweet 16 party. I had invited friends, planned decorations, and even designed my own cake. The day before, Amanda called from college, saying she needed help moving into her new apartment. Without hesitation, my parents canceled my party and drove 4 hours to help her. I spent my 16th birthday alone, with a store-bought cupcake and a text message from my mother saying, "We'll celebrate when we get back." They never did. As I grew older, I developed a sense of resignation. I stopped expecting validation from my parents and instead sought it elsewhere. I threw myself into my art, finding solace in the recognition I received from teachers and peers. I developed a small but loyal group of friends who appreciated me for who I was, not who they wanted me to be. When I was 18, I moved out to attend college, studying visual arts at a university about an hour away from home. The distance, though not great, gave me room to breathe and discover who I was outside of Amanda's shadow. I decorated my dorm room with my photographs, joined the university's art club, and slowly began to build confidence in myself and my abilities. It was during my freshman year that I met Jake. We were paired together for a mixed media project in our Introduction to Design class. Jake was studying film production, and his eye for visual storytelling complemented my photographic style perfectly. We became friends first, spending hours discussing art films and our dreams for the future. By the end of the semester, our friendship had blossomed into something more. Jake was the first person who truly saw me. He didn't compare me to anyone else or try to change me. He valued my art, encouraged my ambitions, and most importantly, validated the feelings I had about my family dynamics. "You know that's not normal, right?" he said one night after I casually mentioned another instance where my parents had prioritized Amanda over me. "Parents are supposed to love their children equally. What they're doing isn't fair to you. Hearing someone else say it out loud was both painful and liberating. For years, I had convinced myself that I was overreacting, that I was being selfish for wanting equal attention and love. Jake helped me see that my feelings were justified, that I deserved better. As my 20th birthday approached, Jake suggested we plan a celebration that would be meaningful to me. Something that couldn't be easily canceled or pushed aside. Something that reflected who I was becoming, not who my family wanted me to be. "This birthday should be different," he said. "This should be about celebrating you and your art and the amazing person you are." For the first time in years, I allowed myself to feel hopeful about my birthday. I imagined a day centered around me, where my achievements were acknowledged, where I felt valued and loved. Little did I know that history was about to repeat itself in the most painful way possible. The planning for my 20th birthday party began 2 months in advance. Jake and I wanted to create something special, something that would celebrate not just my birthday, but also my growth as an artist and as a person. After some brainstorming, we came up with the perfect venue, the Bellamy Art Gallery, a small but well-respected gallery in town that sometimes hosted private events. Jake had connections there through his film program, and after a few calls, he managed to secure the space for my birthday. When he told me, I couldn't believe it. My artwork would be displayed in a real gallery, even if it was just for one night for my birthday celebration. "This is perfect," I squealed, throwing my arms around him. "It combines everything I love: art, photography, my friends, and you." The next step was to get my family on board. Despite our complicated history, I still wanted them there. Perhaps naively, I thought this would be the event that would finally make them see me, really see me as someone worthy of their attention and pride. I called my mother on a Sunday afternoon in March, exactly 8 weeks before my birthday. I was nervous but excited as I explained the plan. "Mom, I'm planning something special for my birthday this year," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Jake helped me book the Bellamy Art Gallery. I'm going to display some of my photography, and we'll have food and music. It's going to be really nice." To my surprise, my mother sounded genuinely interested. "That sounds lovely, Caroline. What a creative idea. Your father and I will be there, of course." Her positive response filled me with hope. Maybe things were changing. Maybe she was finally seeing me as an individual with my own unique talents and interests, not just as Amanda's less impressive little sister. Encouraged by her enthusiasm, I threw myself into the planning process. I created handmade invitations for 30 close friends and family members, each one featuring one of my photographs on the front. I spent hours selecting which pieces of my work to display at the gallery, eventually choosing 15 photographs that represented my artistic journey. Jake and I visited local caterers to plan a menu that included all my favorite foods. We wanted the event to be a reflection of me in every way possible. We chose a combination of comfort foods that reminded me of happy childhood memories and more sophisticated options that represented my evolving tastes. "What about music?" Jake asked as we crossed another item off our planning list. "Nothing too loud," I said. "I want people to be able to talk and look at the photographs. Maybe some soft jazz or acoustic covers." Jake nodded, making a note. "I know a guy in the music department who plays guitar. He might be willing to perform for a couple of hours." Every detail was coming together perfectly. I found myself checking in with my mother regularly, wanting to keep her involved and ensure her continued support. At first, she seemed engaged, asking questions about the food and the guest list, even offering to help with some of the costs. "This is your special day," she said during one of our calls. "We want it to be perfect for you." Those words meant everything to me. After years of feeling like an afterthought, my mother was finally putting me first. As the weeks passed, however, I noticed a subtle shift in her attitude. Our conversations about the party became shorter. She stopped asking questions and offering suggestions. When I called with updates, she seemed distracted, often cutting our conversations short with vague excuses about being busy. I tried not to read too much into it. Everyone gets busy sometimes, I told myself. She already promised she'll be there, and that's what matters. Meanwhile, I continued with the preparations. I spent hours in the university's darkroom printing and mounting my photographs. I wrote artist statements for each piece explaining my inspiration and technique. I wanted everyone who attended to understand my artistic vision, especially my parents. 2 weeks before the party, I visited the gallery with Jake to finalize the layout. The owner, Mrs. Bellamy, walked us through the space, helping us decide where each photograph should hang. "Your work is quite impressive for someone so young," she said as she examined one of my landscape photographs. "You have a natural eye for composition." Her words filled me with pride. This was exactly the kind of validation I had been seeking from my parents for years. Standing in that gallery, surrounded by my work with Jake by my side and Mrs. Bellamy's approval, I felt a surge of confidence. This birthday was going to be different. This time I would be the center of attention, not for seeking it, but for deserving it. As the day drew closer, my excitement grew. I had confirmation from all my friends, including my best friend Taylor, who was driving 3 hours from her university to attend. Jake's parents had even RSVP'd yes, despite having met me only a few times. The only people I hadn't heard from recently were my own parents, but I wasn't too concerned. My mother had already promised they would be there. 1 week before the party, I called home to finalize the details. My mother answered, sounding rushed. "Mom, I just wanted to confirm you and Dad will be at the gallery by 6 on Saturday. The event officially starts at 7, but I'd love for you to see everything before the other guests arrive." There was a slight pause before she responded. 6 o'clock, Saturday. "Yes, we'll be there, Caroline." Something in her tone made me uneasy, but I pushed the feeling aside. She had promised, and I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that this birthday would finally be the one where I wasn't disappointed, where I wasn't made to feel like I came second to everything else in my family's life. Little did I know that the pattern I had experienced my entire life was about to repeat itself in the most painful way possible. The week leading up to my birthday brought an unexpected complication: Amanda's return. She had been living in Chicago since graduating college, working for a marketing firm, and rarely coming home except for major holidays. So when she suddenly appeared at our parents' house on Sunday evening, just 6 days before my party, I was surprised. "Amanda, what are you doing here?" I asked when I stopped by to drop off the formal invitations for my parents. She gave me her perfect smile, the one that had been winning over teachers' peers and our parents for as long as I could remember. "Just felt like visiting. It's been a while since I've been home." My mother was practically glowing with excitement as she fussed around Amanda, offering her tea and asking about her job, her apartment, her friends. I stood in the doorway, the envelopes containing the invitations clutched in my hand, suddenly feeling invisible again. "Oh, Caroline," my mother finally said, noticing me. "Are those the invitations for your birthday thing?" I nodded, trying to ignore the way she had reduced my carefully planned celebration to a birthday thing. I handed her the envelopes. "One for you, and Dad and I included one for Amanda too, just in case she was still in town." Amanda took her invitation, examining the photograph on the front with a critical eye. "You're having your birthday at an art gallery that's unique?" There was something in her tone that made me feel defensive. "It's not just any gallery, it's the Bellamy. They rarely host private events, but Jake managed to arrange it. I'll be displaying some of my photography." "Sounds elaborate," Amanda said with a slight raise of her eyebrow. "A bit attention-seeking, don't you think?" Before I could respond, my mother jumped in. "Amanda, be nice. Your sister is excited about her birthday." It wasn't much of a defense, but it was more than I usually got. I decided to take the win and leave before things could escalate. "I should go. Jake is waiting for me. We have a final meeting with the caterer." "We'll see you on Saturday," my mother called as I headed for the door. 6 o'clock. That evening, my parents hosted a family dinner to welcome Amanda home. I was invited, of course, but from the moment I arrived, it was clear who the dinner was really celebrating. My mother had prepared all of Amanda's favorite foods, including her special chicken parmesan that she only made on special occasions. The conversation revolved entirely around Amanda's life in Chicago, her job, her friends, and her recent promotion. I sat quietly pushing food around my plate, feeling like a guest in my own family. Every time I tried to bring up my upcoming birthday or my photography, the conversation swiftly returned to Amanda. Even my father, who was usually more balanced in his attention, seemed completely captivated by Amanda's stories about her corporate adventures. As the evening wore on, I noticed my mother's attention toward my birthday seemed to be waning. When I mentioned a last-minute detail about the catering, she nodded absently, her eyes never leaving Amanda's face, as my sister described her luxury apartment overlooking Lake Michigan. After dinner, as I helped clear the dishes, I overheard Amanda talking to our mother in the living room. "I don't know why she needs such a big party," Amanda was saying. "It's just a birthday. When I turned 20, I just had a small dinner with friends." "You know your sister," my mother replied in a low voice. "She's always been more expressive." The word expressive was said in a tone that suggested it wasn't a compliment. I stood frozen in the kitchen, plates in hand, feeling a familiar knot forming in my stomach. The hopeful bubble I had been living in for the past 2 months was beginning to deflate. The next day, I tried to include Amanda in some aspects of the party planning, hoping that involving her might make her more supportive. I asked if she would help me choose between 2 different centerpieces for the tables at the gallery. "I don't know, Caroline," she said with a sigh. "They both look fine. Does it really matter?" "It matters to me," I said quietly. She gave me a look that was somewhere between pity and annoyance. "You always did get too worked up about these things." Later that day, I overheard her on the phone with someone, probably a friend from Chicago. "Yeah, I'm stuck here for the week. My sister is having this huge birthday party, and I'm apparently expected to attend. It's like we always have to go to Caroline's things, it's exhausting." Her words stung, but they weren't surprising. Amanda had always seen my events, my achievements, my very existence as an inconvenience, a distraction from the attention that should be rightfully hers. 3 days before the party, I noticed my mother becoming increasingly evasive about the final preparations. When I called to ask if she and my father had decided what they were wearing so I could coordinate the family photos, she rushed me off the phone. "We haven't decided yet, Caroline. We'll figure it out. I have to go now." My anxiety began to rise. I had seen this behavior before. It usually preceded a major disappointment. I called Jake, my voice trembling slightly as I shared my concerns. "I think something's wrong. My mom's acting weird, and Amanda keeps making these comments about the party being too much." Jake, always my rock, tried to reassure me. "Your mom promised she'd be there. She wouldn't back out at the last minute. Maybe she's just busy with Amanda's visit." "You don't know my family like I do," I said, the knot in my stomach growing tighter. "This is how it always starts. First the distraction, then the distance, then the disappointment." "Let's not jump to conclusions," Jake said gently. "Focus on the things you can control. The gallery looks amazing. The food is going to be delicious. Your friends are all coming. Whatever happens with your family, you will be celebrated on your birthday." I tried to take his advice to focus on the positive aspects of my upcoming celebration, but the feeling of impending doom wouldn't leave me. I had experienced this cycle too many times to ignore the warning signs. Still, I held on to a thin thread of hope. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe my mother would keep her promise. Maybe just this once I would be the priority. The day before my birthday, I woke up filled with both excitement and dread. The final preparations for the party were complete. The gallery was set up, the catering was confirmed, and my friends were all ready to celebrate with me. All that remained was the most uncertain element: my family's participation. I spent the morning at the gallery with Jake, making sure every photograph was perfectly positioned, every detail exactly as I had envisioned. By early afternoon, everything was ready. "It looks incredible," Jake said, wrapping his arm around my waist as we stood in the center of the gallery surrounded by my work. "Everyone is going to be blown away." I leaned into him, allowing myself a moment of pure happiness. "Thank you for making this happen. It means everything to me." We left the gallery around 3 o'clock. Jake had one last errand to run, picking up the birthday cake from a local bakery, while I headed home to check in with my parents one final time before getting ready for the big day. As I pulled into the driveway, I had no idea that I was about to experience one of the most devastating conversations of my life. When I walked through the front door of my parents' house, my heart immediately sank. My mother and Amanda were in the living room, surrounded by shopping bags and suitcases. They were both dressed in stylish outfits, clearly ready to go somewhere. My mother was checking items off a list while Amanda packed a small cosmetics bag. "What's going on?" I asked, though I already knew the answer in my gut. My mother looked up and I saw a flicker of guilt cross her face before she composed herself. "Oh, Caroline, I was going to call you." Those words. Those terrible, familiar words that had preceded so many disappointments throughout my life. Call me about what? My voice was steady, but my hands had started to shake. My mother set down her list and approached me with a practiced expression of regret that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Sweetie, there's been a slight change of plans. I might be a little late to your party tomorrow." "A little late?" I repeated. Amanda stepped forward, her designer purse hanging from her arm. "Mom and I are going on a shopping trip to Burlington. They're having this amazing sale at Nordstrom, and I really need her opinion on some work outfits." "Burlington," I said incredulously. "That's 3 hours away." "We'll be staying overnight," my mother added, not quite meeting my eyes. "The sale continues into tomorrow morning, and there are some items Amanda really wants to look at." I stood there trying to process what I was hearing. "You're going on an overnight shopping trip. The night before my birthday party. The party you promised you'd attend." "Caroline Amanda rarely visits," my mother said, as if that explained everything. "And she needs these clothes for work. It's important." "And my birthday isn't important." My voice cracked slightly. Amanda had the audacity to look annoyed. "It's just a birthday, Caroline. You have one every year. I'm only home for a few days and I really need Mom's help with this. Why do you always have to make everything about you?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had spent 2 months planning this event. I had personally created invitations, selected my best photographs, coordinated with caterers and the gallery owner. I had done everything possible to make this a special celebration. And with one casual announcement, my mother and sister were tearing it all apart. "Mom," I said, focusing on my mother rather than engaging with Amanda, "you promised you would be there. This isn't just a random dinner. This is my 20th birthday. I've been planning this for months. The gallery, my photography exhibition, everything." My mother sighed, her expression shifting from guilt to impatience. "I know, and I'm sorry, but surely we can work something out. Can't you postpone it?" "Postpone it?" I repeated in disbelief. "It's tomorrow. Everything is paid for. Everyone is coming. How am I supposed to postpone it?" From his armchair in the corner, my father finally spoke up. He had been silently watching the exchange, as he always did when conflicts arose between my mother Amanda and me. "Your mother's right, Caroline. Maybe you can reschedule. It's not like the date of your birthday is set in stone for the celebration." I stared at him, feeling betrayed from yet another direction. "Dad, you know that's not possible. We've booked the gallery, paid the caterers, sent out invitations. Everyone is coming tomorrow." "Well, we won't be there," Amanda said bluntly. "So you'll need to figure something out." Something inside me snapped. Years of being the second choice, of having my needs and feelings dismissed, of watching Amanda receive preferential treatment time and time again, all came rushing to the surface. "Do you have any idea what it's like to always come second?" I asked, my voice rising with emotion. "To always be the afterthought. To watch your parents drop everything for your sister, while you're left picking up the pieces of whatever plans they've broken. Do you have any idea how that feels?" My mother looked genuinely shocked by my outburst. "Caroline, you're being dramatic. It's just a birthday." "It's not just a birthday," I shouted, tears welling in my eyes. "It's about respect. It's about keeping promises. It's about showing me just once that I matter as much as she does." Amanda rolled her eyes, picking up her suitcase. "Here we go again with the victim act. Mom, we should get going if we want to reach Burlington before dark." My mother hesitated, looking between Amanda and me. For a brief, hopeful moment, I thought she might reconsider. But then she nodded and picked up her own bag. "Caroline, I'm sorry you're upset, but Amanda needs me right now. We'll celebrate your birthday when we get back, I promise." "Like all the other promises you've made and broken?" I asked bitterly. My father stood up, his expression uncomfortable but resolute. "That's enough, Caroline. Your mother has made her decision. I think it would be best if you canceled the party tomorrow. We can have a family dinner next weekend instead." I stared at my father in disbelief. "Cancel the entire party? Are you serious? It won't be the same without your family there." he said, as if that settled the matter. I looked from my father to my mother to Amanda, all of them watching me with varying degrees of impatience and dismissal. In that moment, I realized a painful truth. This was never going to change. No matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, I would always be second best in this family. Fine, I said, my voice suddenly calm. Go on your shopping trip. Cancel on me again. But don't expect me to pretend everything is okay when you get back. Without waiting for a response, I turned and walked out the door. As I got into my car, I could see them through the window already resuming their preparations, as if our conversation had been nothing more than a minor interruption. I drove straight to Jake's apartment, tears streaming down my face. When he opened the door and saw my expression, he immediately pulled me into a hug. "They're not coming," I sobbed into his shoulder. "They're going shopping instead. Shopping Jake. My mother and Amanda are going on an overnight shopping trip to Burlington, and my dad wants me to cancel the whole party." Jake held me tightly, letting me cry it out before guiding me to his couch. "What do you want to do?" he asked softly. "I don't know," I admitted, wiping my tears. "Everyone's already planning to come. The gallery is set up, the food is ordered. But how can I have a birthday party when my own family won't be there?" Jake took my hands in his. "This party is about celebrating you, Caroline, not about your family. Your friends want to be there for you. I want to be there for you. We can still make it special." But the damage was done. The excitement and joy I had felt about my birthday had been completely shattered. All I could think about was the casual way my mother had dismissed my feelings, the cruel comments from Amanda, and my father's complete failure to stand up for me. With a heavy heart, I started making phone calls explaining to my friends that the party had been canceled. Most were understanding, but confused. Taylor, who had been planning to drive 3 hours to attend, was particularly upset. "What happened?" she demanded. "Is everything okay?" I tried to keep my voice steady as I explained the situation, but by the end of the call, I was crying again. Taylor was furious on my behalf, offering to come anyway just to support me, but I declined. I couldn't imagine trying to celebrate when I felt so broken inside. Jake sat beside me through all the calls, offering silent support. When I finally finished contacting everyone, I collapsed against him, emotionally exhausted. "I hate that they can still hurt me like this," I whispered. "After all these years, I should be immune to their disappointments by now." "You're allowed to be hurt," Jake said, stroking my hair. "What they did was wrong. You don't have to pretend it doesn't affect you." That night, I cried myself to sleep in Jake's arms, the excitement of my approaching birthday replaced by a familiar sense of worthlessness and rejection. As I drifted off, I wondered if I would ever stop hoping for my family to change, if I would ever stop setting myself up for these inevitable disappointments. Little did I know that this particular disappointment would be the catalyst for a profound change in my life, a turning point that would ultimately lead me toward healing and self-discovery. I woke up on my birthday morning feeling hollow. There was none of the excitement that should accompany such a milestone. Instead, I felt a dull ache in my chest, a heaviness that made it difficult to even get out of bed. Jake had let me sleep in his apartment, and when I finally emerged from his bedroom, he was in the kitchen making breakfast. "Happy birthday," he said gently, setting a plate of pancakes in front of me. He had arranged strawberries on top to form a smiley face, a small gesture that brought tears to my eyes. "Thank you," I managed to say, though my voice cracked slightly. I checked my phone, a part of me still hoping for birthday wishes from my family despite everything. There were messages from friends, of course. Taylor had sent a long, heartfelt text promising to visit soon. My photography professor had emailed a nice note, but there was nothing from my parents or Amanda. Out of morbid curiosity, I opened Instagram. The first post on my feed was from Amanda, posted just 3 hours earlier. It was a photo of her and my mother at an upscale restaurant in Burlington, raising wine glasses in a toast. The caption read, "Shopping spree with my favorite shopping buddy. Nothing beats mother-daughter time, had blessed." The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. Not only had they abandoned me on my birthday, but they were flaunting their time together on social media without even a mention of what day it was or what they were missing. Jake noticed my expression and gently took the phone from my hands. "Don't torture yourself," he said. "Try to eat something." I made an effort to eat the pancakes he had prepared, but each bite felt like a struggle. How was I supposed to celebrate when I felt so empty inside, and as the morning progressed, I fell into a deep depression. I curled up on Jake's couch wrapped in a blanket, staring blankly at the wall. Jake tried his best to cheer me up, suggesting movies we could watch or places we could go, but I couldn't summon the energy to engage. "I just want to be alone for a while," I finally said. Jake looked concerned, but nodded. "I understand. I'll give you some space. But I'm here if you need me." After he retreated to his bedroom to give me privacy, I let the tears flow freely. I cried for the little girl who had always tried so hard to earn her parents' love and attention. I cried for the teenager who had learned to expect disappointment. And I cried for the young woman I was now still caught in the same painful pattern despite my best efforts to break free. Around noon, there was a knock at the door. Jake emerged from his room to answer it, and to my surprise, Taylor stood in the doorway holding a small birthday cake. "What are you doing here?" I asked, quickly wiping away my tears. "I told you not to come." Taylor stepped inside, setting the cake on the coffee table. "As if I would leave my best friend alone on her birthday, especially after what your family did." Her presence was unexpected, but deeply comforting. Taylor had been my friend since high school, and she knew all about my complicated family dynamics. She sat beside me on the couch and pulled me into a tight hug. "I'm so sorry, Caroline," she whispered. "You deserved better." Something about her simple acknowledgement broke the dam inside me. I started sobbing, really sobbing, releasing years of pent-up pain and frustration. Between gasps for breath, I poured out everything, the full extent of the family dynamic that had shaped my life. "It's always been this way," I cried. "Amanda, first me second. No matter what I do, no matter how hard I try, I'll never be as important as she is." And the worst part is they don't even see it. They think I'm being dramatic or selfish for wanting equal treatment. Taylor listened, really listened without trying to offer solutions or minimize my feelings. When I finally ran out of words, she shared something I hadn't known before. "My sister was the favorite in our family too," she said quietly. "Different circumstances, but the same feeling of never being quite good enough, never quite measuring up." It took me years of therapy to understand that their inability to love me equally wasn't a reflection of my worth. It was a reflection of their limitations. Her words resonated deeply, offering a new perspective on a situation I had always interpreted as my own failure. Maybe it wasn't that I wasn't good enough. Maybe my parents simply weren't capable of the kind of equal, unconditional love that children deserve. As Taylor and I talked, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from my mother, a generic, "Happy birthday, sweetie, having a great time with Amanda. We'll celebrate when we get back." No acknowledgement of the canceled party, no apology, not even a question about how I was doing on my supposedly special day. I showed the text to Taylor, who shook her head in disbelief. "That's not okay, Caroline. That's not how parents are supposed to treat their children." A few minutes later, my father called. I hesitated before answering, but a part of me still hoped for some genuine connection, some recognition of how hurt I was. "Happy birthday, Caroline," he said when I picked up. His voice sounded strained, as if he was uncomfortable with the call. "Thanks, Dad," I replied flatly. "Look, I know you're disappointed about the party," he continued, "but you have to understand your mother doesn't get to see Amanda very often. This shopping trip was important to them." I closed my eyes, feeling a fresh wave of pain. More important than my birthday, than the party I've been planning for months, the party you and Mom promised to attend. My father sighed. "Caroline, you're an adult now. Adults don't make such a big deal about birthdays. Your mother and I will take you to dinner when they get back from Burlington. That should be enough." I didn't know how to respond to such a fundamental misunderstanding of why I was hurt. It wasn't about the party itself or even about my birthday. It was about the pattern of being devalued, of having my feelings dismissed, of watching my sister receive priority treatment time and time again. "I have to go, Dad," I said finally. I have people here. It was a small lie, just Taylor and Jake, but it felt important to let him know I wasn't completely alone, that some people had made the effort to be with me on my birthday. After I hung up, Jake suggested something unexpected. Let's go to the gallery anyway. I looked at him in confusion. Why the party's canceled? Because your art is still there, he said simply. Because you worked hard on that exhibition, and you deserve to see it displayed even if it's just the three of us looking at it. Taylor immediately supported the idea. He's right. You put so much of yourself into those photographs. Let's not let them go unseen. Their enthusiasm was touching, but I felt too emotionally drained to agree. I don't know, guys. I'm not really in the mood to celebrate. It's not about celebrating, Jake insisted. It's about not letting them take this away from you, too. Your art matters, Caroline. You matter. Something in his words struck a chord. My whole life I had allowed my family's indifference to diminish my sense of self-worth. I had internalized the message that my achievements, my passions, my very existence were somehow less important, less valuable. Maybe it was time to reject that narrative. Okay, I said finally. Let's go. The three of us drove to the Bellamy Art Gallery in silence. I half expected to find the place locked and dark, my exhibition already taken down. But to my surprise, Mrs. Bellamy was there, and the gallery lights were on, illuminating my photographs exactly as we had arranged them the day before. Mrs. Bellamy greeted me with a warm smile. I wasn't sure if you'd be coming today, but I wanted to keep everything set up just in case. Her kindness brought fresh tears to my eyes. Thank you. I assumed everything would be canceled. Art should be seen, she said simply. Especially art as honest as yours. The four of us walked through the gallery, viewing my photographs in the hushed, reverent atmosphere that art spaces naturally create. There was something profoundly moving about seeing my work displayed this way, each piece carefully lit and positioned to create a visual narrative of my artistic journey. As I stood before one particular photograph, a self-portrait I had taken during a moment of intense vulnerability, something shifted inside me. The image showed me in partial shadow, my face turned slightly away from the camera, a single tear visible on my cheek. It was raw, honest, and undeniably powerful. This is really good, Caroline, Taylor said, standing beside me. You've captured something real here. In that moment, looking at my own work through the eyes of people who genuinely cared about me, I had a revelation. I had spent my entire life seeking validation from people who were incapable of giving it, chasing after approval that would never come, trying to earn love that should have been freely given. The pattern was so clear now. I would hope, plan, and anticipate only to be disappointed when my family inevitably prioritized Amanda. Then I would feel worthless, unlovable, invisible. And then, most damaging of all, I would try harder, convinced that if I just achieved more, if I just became more perfect, more deserving, they would finally see me and love me equally. But standing in that gallery, surrounded by tangible evidence of my talent and creativity, I realized a profound truth. I didn't need their validation to know my worth. My art spoke for itself. My friendships spoke for themselves. The love I had found with Jake spoke for itself. For the first time, I saw my family's behavior not as a reflection of my inadequacy, but as a reflection of their own limitations. And while that realization didn't erase the pain of their rejection, it did something equally important. It freed me from the cycle of seeking their approval. As we left the gallery that evening, I felt different. Not happy exactly, but perhaps something more valuable, clear-sighted. I had glimpsed a path forward that didn't depend on my family changing their behavior. A path that involved accepting the reality of our relationship while refusing to let it define my sense of self-worth. It wasn't the birthday celebration I had planned, but in its own way, it had become something even more significant, the beginning of my journey toward self-acceptance and genuine healing. 2 days after my birthday, I made one of the most difficult decisions of my life. I had spent the previous day in a state of reflection, thinking deeply about my relationship with my family and what I wanted it to be going forward. After talking it through with Jake and Taylor, I decided that the time had come for honest communication, even if it was painful. I sat at Jake's desk laptop open before me and began drafting a letter to my family. Not an angry rant or an emotional outburst, but a thoughtful, measured account of how their treatment had affected me throughout my life. I wanted them to understand the pattern I had observed, the pain I had experienced, and the boundaries I needed to establish moving forward. "Do you think this will make a difference?" Jake asked as he read over my shoulder. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I need to say these things whether they hear them or not." Taylor, who had decided to stay an extra day to support me, nodded in agreement. "It's not about changing them, Caroline. It's about standing up for yourself. That's a victory in itself." I spent hours on the letter, carefully choosing my words, trying to be honest, without being accusatory clear, without being cruel. When I finally finished, I printed 3 copies, one for each member of my family. That evening, I received a text from my father informing me that my mother and Amanda had returned from their shopping trip. I took a deep breath and replied that I wanted to have a family meeting the following morning. To my surprise, he agreed without question. I slept fitfully that night, anxiety about the confrontation keeping me awake. When morning came, I dressed carefully in clothes that made me feel confident and strong. Jake offered to drive me to my parents' house and wait outside in case I needed a quick escape. "Are you sure you don't want me to come in with you?" he asked as we pulled into the driveway. I shook my head. "This is something I need to do alone, but thank you for being here." I knocked on the door of the house where I had grown up feeling strangely like a visitor. My father answered, his expression guarded. "Caroline," he said with a nod, "your mother and sister are in the living room." I followed him inside, clutching the envelopes containing my letters. The living room was tense with expectation. My mother sat on the couch, her posture rigid. Amanda lounged in an armchair looking bored and slightly annoyed. Shopping bags from their trip were still scattered around the room, a visible reminder of their priorities. "I asked for this meeting because there's something important I need to say to all of you." I began, my voice steadier than I expected. "I've written it down because I want to make sure I express myself clearly." Without waiting for a response, I distributed the letters and then stood in the center of the room. "I'd like you to read these now, please." My father looked uncomfortable, but opened his envelope. My mother hesitated before doing the same. Amanda rolled her eyes, but eventually complied. The room fell silent as they read. In the letter, I had outlined specific examples of the pattern of favoritism that had defined my childhood and continued into my adulthood. I described the emotional impact of always feeling second best, of having my achievements minimized while Amanda's were celebrated. I detailed the pain of broken promises, canceled events, and dismissive comments. Finally, I explained the boundaries I needed to establish in order to protect my emotional well-being moving forward. As they reached the end of the letters, I watched their reactions carefully. My father looked deeply uncomfortable, shifting in his seat and avoiding my gaze. My mother's expression was defensive, her lips pressed into a thin line. Amanda looked shocked, as if she had never considered how her privileged position in the family had affected me. My mother was the first to speak. "Caroline, I think you're being very unfair. We've always loved you and Amanda equally. If there have been times when we've had to prioritize her needs, it's because her career path is more demanding." Her dismissive response, though predictable, still stung. "Mom, this isn't about my career versus Amanda's. This is about a consistent pattern of making me feel less important, less valued. My 20th birthday was just the latest example. We were going to celebrate with you when we got back," she insisted, her tone growing defensive. "I don't understand why you had to cancel the entire party just because we couldn't be there." I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure. "The point is that you promised to be there, and then you chose to go shopping instead. And not just any shopping, an overnight trip that guaranteed you would miss my birthday entirely." Amanda interjected, her voice sharp. "You're being completely self-centered, Caroline. Mom and I rarely get to spend time together since I moved to Chicago. It was important for us to have that trip." "More important than keeping a promise to me?" I asked, looking directly at her. "More important than being present for an event I had been planning for months, an event that meant everything to me?" For once, Amanda seemed at a loss for words. My father finally spoke up, his voice quiet. "Caroline, I think we all regret that things happened the way they did, but dwelling on the past won't change anything. We should focus on moving forward. His attempt at peacekeeping without acknowledgement only fueled my determination. I am focusing on moving forward, Dad. That's what this meeting is about. I'm establishing boundaries for our relationship moving forward because the current dynamic is harmful to me. Boundaries, my mother repeated, as if the concept was foreign to her. What does that mean? It means I won't participate in family events where Amanda is clearly favored over me. It means I expect apologies when promises are broken. It means I need acknowledgement that my feelings and needs are valid, not dismissals or accusations of being dramatic or selfish. The room fell silent again as my family processed my words. I stood my ground even as the silence grew uncomfortable. I had said what I needed to say, and now the ball was in their court. After what felt like an eternity, my mother spoke again, her voice softer, but still defensive. I'm sorry you feel that we've treated you unfairly, Caroline. That was never our intention. It wasn't the heartfelt apology I had hoped for, but it was something. I nodded, acknowledging her words without accepting them as adequate. I think I need some time to process all of this, my father said, rising from his chair. We all do. I had expected resistance, denial, perhaps even anger. What I hadn't anticipated was this awkward, non-committal response, this reluctance to engage with the issues I had raised. But maybe that too was part of the pattern, the family's ingrained habit of avoiding difficult emotions and honest conversations. As the family meeting drew to its unsatisfying conclusion, Amanda approached me asking to speak privately. Wary but curious, I followed her to the kitchen. I never realized you felt this way, she said once we were alone. Her voice was quieter than usual, missing its typical sharp edge. How could you not know? I asked, genuinely confused. I've been living in your shadow my entire life. Amanda looked down, fidgeting with the sleeve of her designer blouse. I guess I never thought about it from your perspective. I was always so focused on maintaining my position, on being the successful daughter, the perfect child. Maintaining your position, I repeated. Against who, me? Did you think this was a competition? She met my eyes then, and I was surprised to see vulnerability there. In a way, yes. I've always felt like I had to be exceptional to be valued. Being the favorite daughter was part of my identity. So when you started showing talent in photography, when your art teachers praised you, I felt threatened. Her admission was so unexpected that I didn't know how to respond at first. The idea that Amanda, my confident, successful older sister, had felt threatened by me seemed almost absurd. But as I processed her words, a new understanding began to take shape. So you deliberately tried to maintain your position as the favorite, I asked, pieces falling into place. The shopping trip wasn't just about clothes, was it? It was about making sure you still had Mom's undivided attention. Amanda had the grace to look ashamed. I didn't think about how it would affect you. Or maybe I did, but I didn't care enough to stop. I'm sorry, Caroline. That was wrong of me. Her apology, though surprising, didn't erase years of hurt. I appreciate you saying that, Amanda, but I need you to understand something. I'm not taking on your emotional baggage anymore. Your insecurities, your need to be the center of attention, that's for you to work on. I'm focusing on my own healing now. She nodded slowly, acceptance dawning in her eyes. For the first time in our relationship, I felt like we were seeing each other clearly, without the distortions of competition and resentment. After leaving the kitchen, I went upstairs to my old bedroom. Much of it remained as I had left it when I moved out for college, though it was clear my mother had repurposed parts of it for storage. I packed a bag with some personal belongings I had left behind, things I wanted to have with me in my new, independent life. As I zipped up the bag, I made a decision. I couldn't stay in this house tonight. Not after everything that had been said and everything that hadn't been said. I texted Jake asking if I could stay with him temporarily, while I figured out my next steps. His reply was immediate and affirmative. When I came downstairs with my bag, my parents were waiting in the hallway looking concerned. Where are you going? My mother asked. I'm going to stay with Jake for a while, I said calmly. I need some space to process everything, and I think you do too. You don't have to leave, my father said, though his tone lacked conviction. Yes, I do, I replied. This is part of setting boundaries. I need distance to gain perspective and to heal. My mother looked like she wanted to argue, but something in my expression must have stopped her. Instead, she simply nodded, her eyes filled with a mixture of confusion and regret. As I walked out the door, bag in hand, I felt a complex mixture of emotions: grief for the family relationship I had always wanted but never had, anxiety about the uncertain path ahead, but underneath it all, a growing sense of liberation. For the first time in my life, I was choosing myself, prioritizing my own emotional well-being over the approval I had chased for so long. The future was unclear, but one thing was certain: I was breaking the cycle. And in doing so, I was taking the first real step toward healing. 3 months after what I now think of as the birthday incident, my life looked remarkably different. I had found a small but comfortable apartment near campus, sharing rent with a fellow art student named Maya who respected my space and boundaries. The walls were adorned with my photographs, including several from the exhibition, that never happened, a daily reminder of my growth both as an artist and as a person. Living away from home had given me the perspective I needed to establish healthier patterns in my relationships, particularly with my family. I had limited my contact with them, setting clear boundaries about when and how we would interact. At first, this had been met with resistance and confusion, especially from my mother, who seemed unable to understand why I needed this distance. Families are supposed to be close, she had said during one of our infrequent phone calls. I don't understand why you're shutting us out. I'm not shutting you out, Mom, I had explained patiently. I'm creating space to heal and to build a relationship with you that isn't harmful to me. It was a difficult concept for her to grasp, but over time she had begun to accept, if not fully understand, my need for boundaries. Our conversations were shorter but more genuine, free from the weight of unmet expectations and unacknowledged patterns. Therapy had been a crucial part of my healing journey. With the encouragement of Jake and Taylor, I had found a therapist who specialized in family dynamics and childhood emotional neglect. Dr. Lawson had helped me recognize the impact of growing up in Amanda's shadow and had given me tools to process my feelings without being consumed by them. What your family did was a form of emotional neglect, she had explained during one of our early sessions. Your emotional needs were consistently overlooked in favor of your sisters. That's not something you imagined or exaggerated. It's a real form of psychological harm. Having my experiences validated by a professional had been incredibly healing. For years, I had questioned my own perceptions, wondering if I was indeed being dramatic or selfish, as my family had often suggested. Dr. Lawson had helped me see that my feelings were valid, my needs legitimate, and my boundaries necessary. The art exhibition that had been planned for my birthday had eventually taken place, though in a very different form. Mrs. Bellamy, impressed by the work she had seen during our brief visit on my birthday, had offered me a spot in a group show featuring emerging local photographers. The exhibition, titled New Perspectives, had opened just a month ago and had received positive reviews in the local arts paper. My relationship with Jake had grown stronger through these challenges. He had been my rock, offering support without trying to fix everything, listening, without judgment, and respecting my need to navigate this journey in my own way. Our conversations had deepened, moving beyond the usual topics of art and school to explore our values, our hopes for the future, and the kind of relationship we wanted to build together. I'm proud of you, he had said one evening as we walked back from a movie. Not just for your photography or the exhibition, but for how you've handled everything with your family. You've shown incredible strength. His words had warmed me in a way that was becoming increasingly familiar, a feeling of being truly seen and valued for who I was, not for who someone else wanted me to be. My friendships, too, had evolved. Taylor had become an even closer confidant, our bond strengthened by her understanding of family dynamics similar to my own. We spoke weekly, despite the distance between our universities, sharing updates on our healing journeys and celebrating each other's progress. I had also developed new friendships through my art classes and through a support group Dr. Lawson had recommended for adult children of emotionally unavailable parents. These relationships were built on mutual respect and understanding, free from the competitive dynamics that had characterized so many of my past interactions. My father had reached out about a month after our family meeting, asking if we could meet for coffee. I had agreed, setting clear expectations about what I was and wasn't willing to discuss. To my surprise, he had come prepared for an honest conversation. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said." He had begun, his hands wrapped around his coffee cup. "About the favoritism, about always putting Amanda first. I want you to know that I see it now. I didn't before, or maybe I didn't want to, but I do now." His acknowledgement had brought tears to my eyes. "Thank you for saying that, Dad. It means a lot to hear you recognize it." "I failed you as a father." He had continued, his voice thick with emotion. "I should have protected you from that dynamic, not contributed to it. I'm sorry, Caroline. Truly sorry." We had talked for hours that day, really talked, perhaps for the first time in our relationship. He had shared his own struggles with confidence and assertiveness, how he had often deferred to my mother's stronger personality, especially when it came to parenting decisions. It wasn't an excuse for his behavior, but it helped me understand him better as a person, not just as my father. Since then, we had been rebuilding our relationship slowly, one coffee meeting at a time. It wasn't perfect, and there were still moments of misunderstanding and hurt, but there was also a new honesty between us that felt like progress. My mother had made less progress in understanding her role in the family dynamic. She still occasionally slipped into old patterns, suggesting that I was being too sensitive or making too much of past events. But there were also moments of genuine effort on her part, small gestures that suggested she was at least trying to see things from my perspective. Amanda and I had reached a kind of truce. After our conversation in the kitchen on the day of the family meeting, she had returned to Chicago, and we had limited contact. But the competitive edge that had defined our relationship for so long seemed to have dulled. In our infrequent text exchanges, there was a tentative respect that hadn't been there before. Last week, she had sent me a message that surprised me. "Saw your exhibition, got a write-up in the arts paper. The photo they featured was really powerful. Congratulations." It wasn't an apology or a deep acknowledgement of our past, but it was a step toward a different kind of relationship, one based on mutual respect rather than rivalry. As I navigated these changing relationships, I found myself increasingly comfortable with uncertainty. The path forward wasn't clear or straightforward, but that was okay. I was learning to trust my own judgment, to validate my own feelings, and to prioritize my own well-being without guilt or shame. The most profound lesson I had learned through this journey was about the nature of family itself. Blood relations were important, but they weren't the only form of family. The connections I had built with Jake, with Taylor, with my new roommate Maya, with the friends who had supported me through my darkest moments, these too were family bonds chosen rather than inherited, but no less valuable for that. My 20th year hadn't turned out at all as I had planned. There had been no grand celebration, no perfect family gathering, no moment of finally being seen and valued by the people who should have seen and valued me all along. Instead, there had been pain and confrontation, difficult truths, and uncomfortable growth. But as I looked at my life now, at the authentic relationships I was building, at the boundaries I was maintaining, at the self-respect I was cultivating, I realized that this year had given me something far more valuable than a party. It had given me the courage to break free from harmful patterns, to stand up for my needs, and to begin creating a life where I was no longer defined by someone else's shadow. The journey wasn't over. There would be setbacks and challenges ahead, moments of doubt and times of struggle. But I was no longer walking this path alone, and I was no longer walking it without a map. I had my own internal compass now, a sense of my own worth that wasn't dependent on external validation. As my 21st birthday approached, I found myself looking forward to it with genuine excitement rather than anxiety. This year I would celebrate with people who truly valued me in a way that felt authentic and joyful. And that perhaps was the greatest gift I could have given myself, the freedom to define my own happiness on my own terms. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who constantly put you second? How did you find the courage to stand up for yourself? Share your experiences in the comments below. If my story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe for more personal journeys of growth and self-discovery. And remember, sometimes the most important relationship you'll ever build is the one with yourself. Thank you for listening to my story, and may you find the strength to prioritize your own well-being even when it's difficult.